auditorium pen and the 4 steps of the seed, for those of you. It's just karma and emptiness, really. And that's all. Just karma and emptiness. And we expected maybe 150 people, 200 people in this massive auditorium, like a convention center in the heart of Sofia. And 700 people packed. People were standing in rows of 3 against the side of this huge auditorium and along the middle of the aisle. It was definitely a 5-cone passage, if you're into that. And and along the back, and people wanted more and more and more. It was stunning. And these are people who have had Geshe Michael visit there in the past, and they just seemed to bring all their friends. We weren't prepared. And then we got taken around, me and 10 others who were sort of being picked to go and teach things around, because they need more and more teachers because of that problem. And then what I didn't know, which I sort of knew from Argentina, but I didn't know really, was I had a line of people wanting to talk to me because of what we do here at the Three Jewels. They're like, we're watching you guys every week on these things. And we're watching 108 Lives, and I like the girl that asked the questions, and I like seriously, that all these people, I had no idea. I was overwhelmed. It was really lovely. And they don't have a center. They don't have a place to go to. They don't have a crowd like this that has had, like, we're lucky, we've been in New York 20 years. So Geshe Michael taught here, built ACI here, nuns and monks got ordained here. So we sort of assume that in New York we're the thing, you know. And even though the hub of that has gone to Arizona, and a bunch of people in 3 retreat, and the best have gone to Arizona, there's this thing about New York, probably also because of the name New York, that was just stunning. And the same happened in Germany. People were like, can we get your number? Can we send you a thing? Can we Skype in sometime and you help us with ACI? Because they've really gotten just DCI, which is the Diamond Cutter Institute, which is a summarized version of ACI, taught without Buddhist words. But then the natural progression is, can I go deeper? Yeah. So there was all these incredible testimonials from people going, hey, I read that book and I heard this thing and I tried it at work and I tried it with my partner and I tried the 4 steps of the seed thing with my weight problem or my anxiety problem. And they're just all telling these stories about it functioned for me to operate in those terms, and it just removed a bunch of pressure from my life or salt and problems. And then there were some crazy testimonies too, like Geshe Michael said, I'll get pregnant, and now I've got 2 babies. Anyway, let's I'm not going to lead you through a meditation. I want you to soak that in. Yeah, how lucky we are. And you do your own thing. How lucky you are. And then we'll stop. And so just really think about all the things you take for granted. Like, this center is amazing. It wouldn't be an amazing center by itself, just with the paint and the paintings. It's only incredible because of the relationships we've built over time and what we're able to dig up for ourselves and others. It's really stunning, and I hope you rejoice in that. Yeah, and getting to know each other and all the beautiful things that we've gotten to connect here, because of spending 2 hours thinking outside the box, outside the square. So whatever your goodness is in your life, just sit there and get a buzz, feeling good, and see if you can share it. And then I'll probably start the mandala offering. You're going to come out. Sorry. Okay. So just take a couple of minutes.
Can I turn that ACI?
Yeah. there was no AC in Bulgaria, so you can think of that too. You can visualize the power of all your good virtue and your good fortune. See if you can visualize it as a light at the core of your heart. And then selflessly just spread it around the planet to as many beings and their faces and their lives as you can imagine. Picturing that they experience the fortune you have and the goodness that you have and the wisdom you have. Just give it to as many beings as you can picture. Imagine that it truly helps them. And gently withdraw that mandala back into the core of your heart. When you're ready, you can open your eyes.
Sashi Pupi Jushin Metatram Rira Linshi Nyandam Hadi Sange Shindu Niteluargi Drokun Namda Shinla Jibarsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniyatayami Sange Shridam Zogi Jobnam La Janju Bardu Dakni Gapsuchi Daki Junyangi Pezonam Ki Droradhan Chir Sange Dribarsho Sange Shridam Zogi Joknam La Janju Bardu Dakni Gapsuchi Daki Junyangi Pezonam Ki Droladhan Chir Sange Dribarsho Sange Shridam Zogi Joknam La Janju Bardu Dakni Gapsuchi Daki Junyangi Pezonam Ki Droladhan Chir Sange Dribarsho.
Cool. Where are we at with logic? How's your mind? This is like the hardest course in the entire 18 courses. It's the one that people drop out the most or come to. Without cookies. And sorry, that was a joke. But I meant it. Where's your mind at? You can talk now. It's okay.
There was one thing specifically that we were kind of rehashing when Geshe Tashi was here.
Dunchi's unchanging things.
That that permanent things aren't necessarily unchanging. Or unchanging things aren't necessarily permanent.
Yeah, correct. That's why Geshe Michael chose the word.
But he said that unchanging things are always permanent. So
yeah. He doesn't understand the word permanent in English. So let's just leave it like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Permanent means so many things for us that it doesn't in Tibetan. Yeah.
The other thing you said that when
Sorry, and I didn't mean to be dismissive about it, Geshe.
No, yeah, that's what we kind of concluded.
Yeah.
The other thing that came up that was unclear was talking about the emptiness of something continues. That emptiness. He was using the word permanent, but like we said, the emptiness of a flower or something, or the emptiness of the glass. If you destroy the glass, and the emptiness of the glass is no longer there. And he was saying that it's always there, that it hasn't changed.
So an extension of the same problem.
Yeah. Like if you smash the glass, the emptiness of the glass is still there.
No, that's not true.
That's what he said, but he also
Right.
said the dunchi of the glass will still be in your mind. That dunchi will never change, so that's why the emptiness of it will still be.
That's okay. So that he's going a little deeper, and that's okay. So the emptiness of the dunchi of the memory of the glass can be there, but there ain't no glass for an emptiness to be there. Yeah, be there. Okay. So what did that do to your mind? Because I like that you have conflict with these ideas because you should be able to come to a settling place. What's unsettling about it? Just because someone told you otherwise, or is it because you've been thinking through it?
How did the Dunchis escalate into something more in your mind?
How do you mean they escalate?
If we, whether you choose enlightenment or any other outcome, in fact, I was thinking about this in a very simple way, right? Like I do computer stuff, right? And so then I realized that there must have been at some point at which I identified myself as being like a computer person, right? And so then I'm involving myself in situations where I'm seeing myself as a computer person. Right, computer person.
You have a Dunchi of yourself as a
computer person. Yeah, there you go,
person.
right? And we can do all this with enlightenment.
Dunchi means mental image,
this way,
okay?
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is my metaphor okay on this?
Go for it.
Yeah,
I don't know where you're going.
And so, how does the Dunchi of, I mean, if you're thinking of getting to a direct perception or to enlightenment, right? You have this Dunchi of something that is not quite enlightenment, right? Or is not quite a direct perception, but yet you're able to use the Dunchis to
or
get
the Drachis, yeah?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
The Drachis, which
yeah.
is something you haven't experienced yet.
Right.
Yeah. So how do they become a Dunchi, an experience of something?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay.
We had a discussion that a Dunchi never changes.
Mm-hmm. It's an
So,
unchanging thing.
If I have a perception of myself as a computer person,
Yeah.
then even if I get more of a computer person, different kind of computer person, then
Yeah.
that is either not the same Dunchi.
Yeah. Or
I don't know, because it can change.
so I'm gonna give you a roundabout answer. Okay. I like that you're going that deep. I was disturbed with the idea that Dunchis are unchanging. Yeah. Don't like it. But
He had the example of a fridge. A fridge is always a fridge. But if you have a stainless steel fridge, it's an exclusive fridge.
so when you conceive of a river, yeah, it's not a static thing. Yeah. And like your mind is not a static thing. So then one of the ideas is that you're perceiving how many frames a second.
65.
Yeah. So whatever the number is, I don't know. I've not had a direct perception of the 65, yeah, frames per second, or 64, depending on who you hear. What are those frames? What do they refer to? Dunchis.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Now, do you have a Dunchi of yourself as a computer person inside there? And then when you're a computer person, you pull out that one frame, yeah, and then and then we finished with it, so it goes in there. And then you go, oh, I'm a computer person again. Oh shit, I became a marketing expert. So now that I move through the marketing expert frames and pick out the one that's marketing person. Is that what you're thinking, or is it different?
That's what it sounds like.
So you are a massive collection of all these unchanging things, right? These unchanging frames, and they're all in there. You just go digging back to that original one that you touched. Yeah? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
what we
okay.
experience happening is that we get new ones, but how you go from these ones that are always the same to having the new ones is where I can't.
Yeah. So we talked briefly when we talked about, we're going to talk about it today, relationships. There were a couple of types of relationships between two objects. Do you remember what they were?
Same.
Relationship of
Cause.
I don't know, it's how they affect
cause
each other.
and effect, yeah, cause.
Nothing in
causation,
common.
And a relationship of. So two things can have a relationship through causality. A tree was caused by a seed. Yeah.
Material cause?
Mutual.
Wait, material cause?
No, but that's the material cause. There's a Nurlangi a material cause that
But
flopped
they're-
over into.
They're not affecting each other. One is affecting one. and both
It's
are
good that you're
affecting
getting
each other.
something.
And you
There's
had one-
one-way or two-way relationship. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and then you had
But
one.
that this is applicable to.
Or not affecting at all.
That's right. There were three kinds. One which is not a relationship. The first one is relationship of causality. So this flower must have come from a seed, right? And we'll cover it again tonight, but that's a one-way relationship, right? It came from the seed caused
And
the
then
plant. Yeah.
Jedrak,
Great. And then that's called a relationship of
like
Same category. Like,
quality, characteristic. I don't know what you.
but
what-
identity. It's called a relationship of identity, right? Remember that? So I can't even remember why I went there with you guys to answer the many different dunchis that come up one after the other. Yeah.
Because it was a relationship of nothing in common.
Wasn't it because we were saying that do dunchis just like pop out on their own, and how do we?
So when you finished having that perception of myself being a computer programmer, yeah, and then you go have sex with your wife, yeah, and you're not having sex with your wife as a computer programmer.
Not that often.
Not there. I am a computer programmer. So you know, there's probably a slightly different dunchi occurring
Sure,
in your
yeah.
mind of
Yeah.
of an identity that you put on, yeah, or you have, or you, right? You're not computer programming. It's relational to what you're doing. It's relational to who you invoke that. Yeah, so the dunchi of yourself, watching yourself doing that, now we're all doing it, I'm sorry I chose that example, is enough for it.
It's not even the first time, just keep going.
Digging myself deeper and deeper. But we're all having dunchis right now, right? Actually, some of us are just having drachis. I'm enjoying my drachi. So the image you have of yourself at that moment is a computer programmer, right?
Right.
Okay, so what happened to the computer programmer one that happened just before you were typing away and she walks in and you rip your clothes off, right? And something changed in your mind at 65 frames a second. What happened then? What happened to the computer programmer?
That person left and there's another person in their place, right?
Right? So I wanted to give the analogy of the river, because like a river, we say there's a river, but we know the analogy of the mind saying that the things that make up the river is this changing thing, right? So your mind is a changing thing. It has an identity and has another identity, has another, and each one of them have their own emptinesses, right? Okay. So can you ever say you went back to the previous computer programmer exactly as it was after you put your clothes back on and go back at the desk? Is it exactly that? Right? You can't, right?
Right.
Because you're changed. You're a different thing.
Right.
So then you could also say that about this moment of being a programmer and to next millisecond being a computer programmer. I'm guessing that's the answer. I can't remember quoting anything off, but I'm open to debating that. I think that's the answer about the different dunchis that come up one after the other, and then they're no longer that. They are unchanging for the time that they are. But then the next frame.
Ah, yeah.
Right? And there was a mental image of myself as a successful person.
Yeah.
And then something happened in my life.
Yeah.
And I rejected something in me, and then that became some form of unsuccess.
Yeah.
And then those mental images were so strong that I now don't want to be that anymore.
Yeah.
But I have no way of getting out of that kind of thinking.
You don't.
I keep saying this story, and today I, confirmed it with like a talk of Tony Robbins, and he says it's like the only reason why you're not getting to where you want is the story that you're telling.
Yep.
And if there is such a thing as an unchanging dunchi, if there is a story of some image of myself that is unchanging, that I have no power to.
That's not what I just finished saying.
Exactly.
That's not what I just finished saying.
He seemed to say that a refrigerator is always a refrigerator. But if
Geshe Tashi,
yeah.
yeah, when it's a refrigerator, it's always a refrigerator. No problem with that.
So if there's
As
like
I'm a computer programmer,
successful
I'm perfectly
career or
always.
unsuccessful career, like at some point it changes.
Yeah.
And like how do you work with those energies?
That's a beautiful question.
Great.
Sir?
I think getting back to the computer program Dunchi, and something better comes along, and it harks back to renunciation. It's renouncing who I am to find out who you are. So you have this mental image that might be unchanging, that I'm a computer person, but wow, how quickly did that change? And I just threw it away because something better came along. So that something better that comes along is the motivation. It may be hard to get out of this box that I'm putting myself in, but it's there. It's like you gotta reach for it.
I'm suggesting that the mental image you have is so millisecondly unchanging, yeah, that once it comes out of existence, goes out of existence because something else is in its place, you will never return to that mental image. However, it may feel that way, like a river feels like a river because it's got a stream of the same stuff. If I put blood in the river for a while, the river will be red. Yeah, it does not mean the river is always red. Okay, it means that a series of dunchis have arisen, and then you really have to think about where the hell did they come from? Yeah, and this is the magic of this system. In this system, who put those dunchis there? Who put them there? Understanding logic, right? So we can let's assume the story about the pen, right? The story that, let's assume we understand it, yeah? The pen. Yeah. So the classical example in this lineage is that this object you call a pen, yeah? But under analysis, which is what we're doing here, right? You can't find penness, the essence of pen, and all that mental image means to you from this object. And the proof of that is that if I bring a puppy dog in here and I show them this object, they have a dunchi, a mental image that forces them to act, right? Because we're all doing dunchis act, become a great computer programmer, a shitty programmer, a success, whatever it is, right? So we have the dunchi arise. It makes us act, I'm going to write something, or I'm going to do. Or the dunchi from the puppy for the same object, yeah, says, I need to chew on that. And we say to the dog, you're a stupid animal because you're wasting a good pen. But if we're equal rights, the dog should be saying, you stupid humans, you're wasting a good chew toy by doing this weird thing with it. Really, that's what must come from them, however that's conceived in their experience, right? So it can't be both. But we know that at that time, when there's puppy dogs and humans, it appears as both. So there are two realities happening, which proves, let me first of all prove that it's not coming from it. So when all the humans leave the room and all the animals leave the room, and this object is sitting here in complete silence without anybody or anything around it to observe it, at that time, what is that object? And you can catch what it is.
Potential.
Right, it's potential to be when someone peeks open the door and you walk towards the object and some contact is made between the being perceiving it and let's call it a dog, yeah? And they make contact, visual contact with this object, instantly it becomes a chew toy. And then humans come in and instantly it becomes a pen, which proves what? It proves there ain't no reality, no pen, that's coming this way. Like we think and operate life. We think life is this way. I see that stuff, that's out there, it's that way. But under this very clear analysis, that is impossible. Just bring a dog down, yeah? So, is it really a pen though? So without getting weird philosophical, is it a pen?
Yes.
Yeah, unquestionably you can write with it. Is it a chew toy? Yeah, that's all they do with it, or whatever you want to conceive of it. So where is that thing that makes us act? Is it this way? There's some power in there that's projecting into my being penness. Impossible, right? So it must be coming from this way. Yeah, Dunchi? Like we are projectors for our world. If we can get that, then the big question is, where the hell did those Dunchis, those projection images come that forced upon me, because it's not a choice, right? Because I can't wish it to be a diamond. It's not a choice in the moment, but it is still a projection. Who put them there? Who put those powerful seeds in there? We did, right? And how do you do that?
Thoughts and actions, speech?
Right, through the 3 doors of expression, right? Which are body, speech, and mind, right? And one is motivating karma, and the other 2 are motivated karmas, right? So which comes first? Your mind says something, right? And then you speak about it, like, she's a bitch, or she's amazing, yeah, because you had a mental experience of a being, or you do something, punch her or hug her, right? So and as you do the mental movement, conceiving of something or someone, with all the complexity of mental functions of feelings and all these other things, right? As you watch yourself do something towards something or someone, as you watch yourself thinking or speaking or acting towards something, you're recording that motivation mostly, as well as the action, and it's filtering into your mind, and it's making an impression on your mind, and as soon as that impression is made, a root begins to form in the seed of that impression in your mind. And they say, and you have to prove it for yourself through practice, right? That this seed, this impression of a negative intention or a positive intention or action towards another person that you've just recorded in your being, it's inside you. Yeah, your intent in the world is growing a root, and it's doubling every 24 hours. So the root, the seed you made right now, tomorrow is 2, day after is 4, day after is 8 times as powerful as that intention. And so you can imagine your mind seeded with all these powerful and benign actions that you've done. They come in 3 flavors, right? Great, neutral, or bad, right? Like your intention to be good to something, like altruistic or caring or positive towards an object, or neutral, you're just walking through life, or negative, right? Reject and push in. Then there are ranges within that stream, and you are your consciousness, your mind is filled to the brim with, if you understand the logic of past lives, it's filled to the brim with all the possible negativity you could have ever done, ever. You have murdered people, you have raped people, you have punched people, you have hated people, you have slashed people, you have been Trump and Hitler and every horrible thing. The slasher, and you have been so you're filled with those, right? Layer upon layer upon layer. And the same for every goodness. You have been Master Shanti Deva's friend, you have been the Dalai Lama's student, all themselves, you have been the kindest, most perfect Mother Teresa, you have been emperor of every world. If you understand the logic of past lives, which means those seeds can stay in there latent.
Oh yeah, both kind of work. Both kind of work, but latent is later.
What's the other one?
Laden, I guess that would be like
latent.
planted, like laden with.
Well, they can
your
sit there
karma.
with that L word and they can ripen at any time upon you. But if you think about the way that you act and motivate, so you might hold anger for a day or 3 days, right? There's like, and Geshe Michael uses the analogy of airplanes coming off a runway, right? So you put a negative one and a negative one and a negative one, and then, oh, we just did some goodness, and there's a good one and a good one and a bunch of neutral ones, and they're all just taking off, right? And if you study karma, they're dependent on the object towards you did it, the amount of energy you've had towards it, whether you saw yourself completed. There's all these nuances to the planting. So then, of course, you might have a whole series of events occurring in your life, like I have a human rebirth, I've got all this awesome skill. Look at it all ripening as me perceiving it as a beautiful, successful career in whatever. Yeah, and I'm super. And then and that expires. And then you have a whole stream of other things arising. I'm not super, but I'm still clicking cameras, or you see how they just arise? Because you have unlimited. Now, the magic is being able to manipulate the impossible number of seeds you contain, using that metaphor. That's possible. There are practices for that, right? Partly it is taking on the identity that you would like to put on, right? It sort of energizes that whole section of you. When you do a sadhana, when you do a practice where you visualize a deity and so on, what is in your mind as you're imagining enlightenment and perfection? What is being moved in those latent seeds? Yeah?
Yeah, so I have some mental image.
Exactly.
What's that?
I've seen you, well, I want to ask.
Yeah. So, and he has, like, this is all really good, right? And so we have some picture in our mind of like an enlightened being or a successful person that we want to be, or a person who has renunciation or something like that, right? But then this is the mental image that doesn't change, but then somehow during our meditation and practice and right on and off the mat, right, these things then escalate, right? I'm able to...
No, I'm saying that they don't change while they exist.
Right.
But you're having 65 of them that come in and out of existence. You don't go back to the same one. This is what I'm saying. I'm suggesting the moment right now of me perceiving an enlightened being, the Dunchi I have right now, is different than the next one I have.
Yeah.
And different to the next one I have. Those are gone. And when they disappear, they disappear. The emptiness of a flower is only the emptiness of a flower for as long as the flower is there. What does the emptiness of a flower mean? What does the emptiness of a pen mean?
There's nothing inherently pen about.
Yeah, that there ain't no pen other than the pen being projected from the perceiver, right?
Yeah.
As soon as there's no pen, that emptiness is gone too. The changing or unchanging means that there isn't a gradual coming of being of that emptiness and a gradual disappearance of that emptiness. It's perfectly unchanging, always a lack of self-existence for as long as that there are pens. You're this pen, yeah? When this pen is no longer a pen, there ain't no more. At that millisecond, there ain't no more. And this is an incredible meditation about subtle impermanence too, but I don't really want to go there right now. At the moment that there is no more pen, there cannot be an emptiness of that pen. Yeah, unlike what you suggested Geshe Tashi said. Yeah.
And couldn't you say, even with the pen still being there, the emptiness of your perception for that second, like, because everything's changing, whatever, right? So even with the pen there, that mental image of pen changes. The next second, you're looking at a different part of that mental image of pen is changing. So the emptiness of the pen that you had a second ago is gone. The emptiness
beautiful. This
gone.
is their subtle impermanence. Yeah.
Right. So because it's always it's always like a projection.
Yeah,
So there's always
yeah.
a mental image, and that mental image is constantly
Yeah,
changing, and
yeah.
that mental image is empty too.
Yeah,
So
perfect. That's the subtle impermanence method that you want to go to. I don't like your questions, but I'm letting it happen.
We like you. Okay, so I have two ideas in my mind. Maybe they're the same
That's
thing.
why I don't like it. See,
So
it begins with a preamble. Just watch it. Go on, and then
Are
go
you
on.
saying? So two things, right? Are you saying Dunchi is like each single Dunchi is unique, that's coming from a unique seed that we planted, and then we project it, and then it expires and it goes on? Or is it like,
And then it expires, and then what?
and then we have a new Dunchi, a new set of Dunchis never seen before, or something. But I mean, never seen since we planted them.
What happens to the one you planted?
It's already, wait,
Over
which
time,
one?
what
The one
happens
you
to
already saw?
it?
The
Once
one-
you planted it,
It
once you
grows.
planted a course for a seed to ripen,
It grows.
doubles, right? It grows and it grows and it grows. So all these dunchis you're having right now, where did they come from? One action?
Yeah.
6 actions? Like all the next 20 minutes of experience you're having, did that come from 20 minutes of action in your previous moments of mind?
What? All.
Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah.
What am I trying to ask?
The relationship between the
Stream of experience you're having right now
versus
the cause, right? I thought your question was going to correlate 1 to 1. One dunchi to one previous action. One dunchi to one previous action. It's not that. It's that you could have multiple dunchis stemming from, why? Because karma multiplies.
Okay.
From one action you did 10 million years ago, you could have a whole lifetime of dunchis coming from that. I'm exaggerating, right?
Sure. But is it kind of like if I have a seed to see a pen, and at one moment in one frame of the 65 frames, I'm experiencing a dunchi of like a particular color of red, right? Like you have
Folder.
the other one over. But it's all red cap. And that was a bad example, but what is that, yellow? I'm experiencing a particular dunchi of like a shade of yellow, and then the next frame is like oblong. Like I have a seed for seeing some oblong thing. And then I have a composite of all those. My mind.
Oh, I see what you're
is
saying.
like-
You're saying how do you identify? You're looking at one of the ways that we identify an entire object. You can't say that this is a pen until your eye goes to the top of the pen and to the bottom of the pen and puts it together and says that's a
Like those are all different
collection.
dunchis, right? Like certain.
That's
shades
the
of one of
meditation on subtle impermanence, but they can be. Yeah, they are.
They are,
If you
right?
perceive of them that way, they are.
So why do we make the distinction between a dunchi and a karma?
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm trying to give you.
The duchi doesn't ripen.
We just talked
Yeah,
about them right
yeah.
now.
A karma is a movement of the mind, but the movement of the mind is also
Because we've almost-
is the movement of the mind.
Yeah, we've almost come to the point where we're saying every turning of the mind is a new dunchi, which would be karma.
I think
I'm okay with playing with both of those, but you can't say I'm planting a dunchi, right? When you act in the 3 doors of expression, you wouldn't say, just because it's the terminology we've inherited, I guess, you can't say I'm going to plant a dunchi. Your mind moved with intention towards something. You're not saying I'm planting a mental image. The mental images will come from karma.
So
Karma
the
is the
mental-
movement.
It's sort of like a composite, like karma is like the composite of the.
If you want to think about it that way, that's okay.
Geshe Tashi also mentioned that you don't create a dunchi, you experience it.
Well, that's.
So
also
that's
where
that's
it's
probably
going.
the distinction. Yeah, but that's okay.
That's
I don't
also
know
where it's
that
going.
there's a scriptural
I don't know
answer, but he
what
might.
that means, or how that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we got there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems
like
that
effect.
if a dunchi is like riding on the wave of the karma, it seems like we're saying that a dunchi is created I don't know, I know I was debating with him about this the past 2 weeks, sorry guys, but it seems then that a Dunchi wouldn't be unchanging, it would be changing. If it's produced by our karma.
No, it's not produced by the karma.
Well,
It
remember?
expires.
No, then we went back
It
to,
may
well,
not change.
Oh, I like it.
Either
She's
way.
saying it's an unchanging thing, and unchanging things can't be caused.
no, but
Yeah.
it was like going back to saying it's like a fact. Like facts are unchanging.
Then why are they unique to our previous experiences?
Why are Dunchis unique to our previous experiences?
Because you perceive the pen and someone else perceives the chew toy. So it's unique to
That's
your
a nice answer.
perception.
Thank you. That's a nice answer. I'm going to stop it there. Not because it's getting difficult, even though I like it. It's because we're going to start doing that and then go deeper and deeper, which is the point of debating. But I've got more than an hour worth of stuff to cover, right? And I'd like to cover it. But I wanted to check where you were at, and I want to make a link between doing an intellectual exercise, because it's nice, right? Going, oh, hold on, my mind is creating mental images, and then you're self-existently thinking that there are mental images in your mind, right? If you're like me, you're thinking, oh, there really is a little projector in my mind with a tiny image, and I'm visualizing a Dunchi, and I'm visualizing the karma, that movement. But these are metaphors for an energy that you're experiencing, and that's called life, okay? And the precious life experience that you're experiencing, you have some capacity to manipulate it. You have some control over it. And so these techniques, these methodologies, these understandings are referring to this thing of being hey, right? I don't want you to lose the link, not to get heady about the debating process, unless it serves a purpose to remove some suffering or remove self-existence, or get to a point where you have a direct experience of the ultimate nature of the way things are. Because that's the only thing that's going to free you. Otherwise we will become very scholastic, and it'll be a really nice university of Geluk Westerners with funny yellow hats. And it's good, it's a good karma if it's motivated to understand the nature of existence and how to free beings from being locked in that cycle of suffering, yeah, which includes getting really heady about stuff we love and thinking of it as a thing, yeah.
And making sure that it works, so that we're not just following something because.
No, I'm not saying you shouldn't debate. On the contrary, yeah, on the contrary, yeah. I'm saying you must do that, but check your motivation every time you do that, because you're planting karmas every time you're doing that, yeah.
Also, it's really quick, it's not a question.
I'm so afraid of you. Yeah.
It's just like, because as we're going through the logic, or we're going through a particular debate, our motivation is actually going to change the outcome. So it's not like, oh, we just have to check this to see if it's correct, like it's some cold mathematical thing.
Exactly, that's
It's
where I
not.
was
It's
trying to
also
get to, yeah.
Empty, it's also flexible. There's no truth.
A couple of people ask me, both in Europe and here, it's like, oh, I love all this stuff, but how do I work it in the office? How do I make it practical to my everyday life? What's my daily practice look like, right? And really, we've gone deep and deep and deep into a philosophy that must be applicable in your day-to-day. Otherwise, it doesn't serve a purpose, right? You're saying, I want to make sure it works. I want to get down here. And you're down here in the depths of the philosophy, which is awesome. It's awesome, because that's what you need if you're meditating, and if you're, after meditating, walking around your office, your life, your relationships, your world, and acting in accord with the philosophy you've come to understand and the meditation about it that you've gotten to feel. If you're acting in accord with that, which most of the time means you're acting in discord to human impulse. Like, you hurt me, I'm gonna hate you. It means in discord to that, right? It's like, Geshe Michael had this beautiful thing in Europe. You're walking around your daily life, your daily practice, and you encounter issues. We discussed how the seeds are planted in your mind through what you say or do or think, right? So last week I yelled at somebody, at Stephen, because he made me mad. Yeah? And despite myself, I yelled at him. Yeah? And I self-existently thought he caused my problems, so you're stupid and you're evil, right? Blah. It wasn't just last week. I wasn't here last week.
I told everyone you punched me.
So I have that seeding me, right? At some time, so let's say in a month's time or 3 weeks or 2 days or whatever you want to say, at some future time, yeah? This seed will ripen upon a blank object, yeah? So I walk into my friend's house or my mother's house or someone, or even Stephen, right? And there is yelling, screaming person at me going, "You're an idiot, Hector. You're so stupid," right? Self-existence says that he is doing that to me. And I've got nothing to do with it. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything. I just opened the door and walked in and he yelled at me. I'm blameless. It's not me, it was him, right? What a natural response is, what an idiot. I'm going to yell at you. Right? That's a natural response because I didn't do anything. I had a good day at work. I worked hard. I was really good that day. But that day, this yelling, screaming thing disturbed my good self. And Geshe Michael said, when that happens, you've got to think that there are two people in the room, two Stephens in the room, or whoever yelled at you. Right? The one that you did absolutely nothing to deserve this, Stephen. The one that yelled at you unfairly, Stephen. Yeah? And the one that yelled at you because the seeds of you yelling at someone in the past just labeled and experienced that being that way because it was in you. Do you see it? Yeah? So these two Stephens, let's think about them. That I didn't do anything to you, I'm an innocent person, Stephen. Yeah? That Stephen, does that Stephen exist?
No.
Could there ever be a moment that you're experiencing anything that you had no causation for? There ain't no Stephen like that. There ain't no yelling, abusive, screaming person or circumstance or anything that could ever come from nothing. It wasn't me. I was a good boy. And he just yelled for no reason. We even have it in our language. That Stephen is the gapcha. That Stephen does not exist, could never exist, will never exist. There ain't no being like that, ever, that you experience that has nothing to do with you. Impossible, Stephen. That's the one we deny. That's the gapcha. That's the empty, the things that emptiness is empty of. That kind of being. Yeah? The other one, the one that I'm hearing screaming at me. It's not that it's not hurting. It's not that it's not screaming. I'm hearing screaming. Right? But the one I recognize as that could only ever happen as an escalation of the multiplying seeds I planted, projected upon the blankness of that being, because the person listening to them screaming is giggling, going, "Ah, that's a nice scream. He deserves it," or whatever they're thinking. Yeah? And my thinking is different. And their reason for screaming is thinking still. So there's all these different perceptions about that scream. That's blank. But I am forced to experience it because I have those causes in me projected upon that. My seeds are ripening. Now, if you understand that, that is a dependent arising Stephen. Dependent on whom? On what? Dependent on my past karma. Dependent on my projection. Yeah? Now that Stephen versus that Stephen, the Stephen that I hold some wisdom towards, it's empty and it's caused by my past actions. I hold wisdom there, right? And the Stephen that I hold with ignorance will, so depending on where my mind is at, will give me two responses. What response am I going to have to the one that it's not my fault, Stephen? I didn't do anything to deserve this, Stephen. You're a stupid idiot, Stephen. And what am I doing? Right? And that's what Korwa is. That's what the wheel of life is talking about. That's the cycles of suffering. This is daily practice I'm talking about. What if I truly understand, because of habituation and bashing my head and asking all the questions and debating, that there could never be a Stephen like that. That never will be. Yeah? If I just believe it for a second or pretend to believe it after my meditations and act towards it against that instinct, and I say, if I yell now, what happens? I get more of that. Yeah? Whatever action I have towards this impulse will dictate my future actions. And the deeper I go into wisdom and the deeper I go into my actions against that one, the stronger the karma in my mind. So I will absorb and hug and say, I love you, and then hide in my room and say, I'll talk to you in a minute. Or I'll go pretend to poo or something. You know, and come out 20 minutes later. Until that dissipates. Right? I know I said poo and sex in the one class. What happens to my mind when I understand that that impossible thing has been locking me into samsara, and this possible thing is my complete creation? Even if we don't understand it, what happens if we act in this way in our world? Where is that world coming from? Your mind.
I woke up this morning and I was looking at this unsuccessfulness, and I decided to meditate, and I said, oh, it's a lie. And then my mind started going, if that's a lie, then that's a lie, then that's a lie, then that's a lie, then that's a lie. And I ended up in this, it was like on the way to a kind of wonderful, like, freedom. And I knew I wasn't completely unstuck from it, because I couldn't really get to, like, everything is a lie. But I knew that it was possible. And so it was like a 20-minute thing. And then you're like falling back into your old patterns.
You have to, yeah, because that's
and
where
then
we're
you're
at.
like, but I wish that something could change here, because it's still this unsuccessfulness, but there's this awareness that it's a lie.
That begins to dent it. Yeah? Let me talk today about what the subject is, and hopefully you'll see the connection between the denting of an idea that holds you back and flipping it into something that frees you. Yeah? So maybe that can relate that way. Are we cool with that? I hope that answered something. Did it?
It was very helpful, thank you.
Yeah, okay. But that's the only point of studying these things, is so you can put it into action. The world is subjective, it's forced upon us. We do share a reality that is tangible and true, but it's projected. That's what makes it true. If it wasn't, it couldn't be true. Okay, I'm not doing a review. Screw that. Let's see, do I have anything? Not there yet. Okay, let's talk about contradictions and relationships. We've covered all these subjects, subject and object. We talked about debating, we talked about syllogisms, we talked about positives and negatives. These are all subjects in this text, series of texts called the Dura, right? Which are the texts used for debating logic. By the way, that baby monks learn at the age of 13, 15, right? And we learned after we got some core concepts in there. So they study it without knowing what they mean. They just remember, if you've seen the reading for this class, it's horrendous, right? It's hard. It's all these kachigmas, they're called, these logical arguments that go through a false and incorrect statement and flip you into a correct statement, so you can get, and then you just remember them and you practice them without knowing why. But by the time you turn 18 or 20 or 19 or 21 or whatever it is, you begin to understand the practical nature of all those things, but you have the play of logic already in you, and you know how to make a logical statement, what makes a correct reason, what makes an incorrect reason, blah, blah, blah. And we've just touched it as subject. So today's subject, which is again in the Dura, is contradictions and relationships. And of course, all these things have to do with applying to the invalid Stephen or the valid Stephen. They have to do with how we act in our world by thinking self-existence or dependent arising and emptiness. Yeah? So the readings really become this, you can pick one of those kachigmas, one of those arguments, debates, and just practice them and read them, and they will get your mind to a tiny little thing that will at some point help you when you get deep to those things, yeah, that you were asking, or when you want to try and divide the experience you're having of Dunchis. Does that make sense? Cool. So what am I calling them? Contradiction is the study of when two subjects contradict each other. How nice is that?
Two objects.
Huh? Two objects, yeah, two objects, sorry, contradict each other. Good. And the subject of the relationship between two objects. Let's start with contradictions. That's pretty easy, right? It's same concept in the West as it is in the East. Things are related to each other, and they contradict each other, and or they contradict each other. Okay? We're good with that? Yeah? Let's look at the first contradiction. I thought I'd look for a Western contradiction, but doctor selling you cigarettes. In the which they did for the longest time. There are two features to something being a contradiction, right? And the first one, between two things, right? The implication here is that they are two existing things. Because you can't have a contradiction between a thing that is existing and a thing that is not existing, because that would then be a contradiction between one thing. There's only one thing there, right? So,
Yes.
okay. So the implication here is that they are two existing things. And then if you want to get into it, which people have, you can wonder whether the non-existing thing is a thing. Which you might want to get. You tell me there's nothing there good. You tell me one of the things that must make something contradictory to another, besides things being two things. What's one of the things that would make something contradictory? One quality or one feature, huh?
They can't both be true at the same time?
That's pretty good. Good. Anything else?
Can't be held or perceived at the same time?
It's close. The first one is tade, which is they're distinct or separate from each other. Like you have to say. So, for example, my refuge name is Lu Yang Zel Nam, right? Lu Yang Zel Nam. But my name is also Hector Marcel. Is that two things or one thing? This is for you.
Two.
Is it? Why is
well,
it
it could
two
be
things?
both.
Because your relationship to it is different.
It could be both. Right? Depending on Chi-Cha track.
No, you could have a two-way relationship or one-way relationship. It's not a one. We're talking.
I can't.
Are they two distinct things or one thing? Are they referring to one thing or two things?
Are they referring to one thing?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're referring to one thing.
Okay.
One thing, but they're nominally distinct.
Great, nominally distinct is nice. I like that. Okay, so I can't say that
So that would be both,
It's
right?
by name. By name, it's distinct, right? The rule here, to try and clear that up, is that the main name that refers to that object is what we use as the thing to identify that object, to see whether or not it's distinct to something. So you might say Hector Marcel Luyang Salnang is distinct from what? Now, a twirly one for you is that when I say Hector Marcel, you have a Dunchi, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say Luyang Salnang, you have a slightly different one.
Mm-hmm.
That's problematic. We can not talk about it because I'm not going to. So, but the two things exist, okay? I don't want to confuse you, just simple, the discussion about things contradicting, because what are we going to use it for? What are we going to use the idea of contradictions for? Once you know the format of debate, you're going to try and knock down your opponent to get them to a point. But what's the point of debating?
Trying to fight against the habits of mind that keep you
Trying to undo that one, the one that we think exists, which doesn't and couldn't and ever could. Ultimately, it's that. Stephen will. Cool. So that's one, Tade, right? The other one is, what was your other example? So they must be separate or distinct, and then what was your?
Can be true at the same time.
That's cool. No one thing can be both at the same time. That's close. Yeah. So it can't be both A and B at the same time. Yeah. So these are sort of features of contradictions, and then I'm going to give you some depth for contradictions. Does that make sense? So when you were saying, I had a previous image of a devil and an angel, right? Are they separate and distinct? Yeah, they're different things, right? And can a devil be, did I put holy there? I think that the implication is that no one thing can be wholly the other. No, that's in one of the examples. I'll give it to you in a second. Okay, but whilst you're being a devil, you can't be an angel. Yeah? And if it's an angel and a devil that you're looking at the same, they are completely distinct. And this is not that, and that is not that.
But not by the perceiver may.
No, that's a good question, because that's how you're going to use the debate. At the moment, you're having a perception of an angel, and then at the moment, you're having a perception of, right? Is that cool? Yeah. Nice point. So that's all about that, I think. Yeah. Do non-existent things exist?
My brain.
That was just for her. Let's find two kinds of contradictions that are found in the Durag. Okay, two types of contradictions. So just simply saying before, things are distinct from each other, and there's no one thing that can be both. Yeah, cool.
Sorry, I don't fully understand how one thing can't be both, because we just said a pen is a pen for me and a chew toy for a dog at the same time.
We're talking about the same perceiver, which is what her point was.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it can't be both at the same time. For the one person, for the one perceiver.
Okay, I got it.
Cool. Good. Whew. Okay. So two kinds of contradictions. The first one is a contradiction that is mutually exclusive. So not one object can be wholly both things. Yeah? For example, for those of you that remember the list of all things, takpa and mitakpa. What does takpa mean?
Unchanging.
What's mitakpa mean?
Not unchanging.
And the direction. And the implication here is it's a direct contradiction, right? Because we know that is the complete opposite of that. Fair? Yeah. What about unchanging thing and working thing? What's the opposite? What's the contradiction of an unchanging thing? Changing thing. And what's a working thing? So your mind has to do a little loop, right? To come to the contradiction, right? Even though instinctively you know, but it went really quickly when the direct opposite of unchanging is changing, and working thing is a synonym for changing. Therefore, it's a contradiction. So that's an indirect, mutually exclusive contradiction. Don't worry about the labels, just worry about that, oh, that's a little way I can go in my proving something is or isn't in contradiction to something else that my debater is going to tell me. Is that cool? Cool. And the other kind of contradiction is where things are diametrically opposed.
Right, one negates the other.
Yeah, good. One negates the other, and it's sort of a process, yeah? Similar to the indirect previous, it's sort of a process. They contradict each other such that one works, and I highlighted that, it does something to eliminate the other, yeah? A comical or a child example when they're teaching the kids this is you can't have a crow and an owl on the same branch, right? So they'll fight to keep the branch. Or, yeah, that's the comical example. The other one is the spiritual example. The scriptural example is antidotes. Antidotes. So we have an image of myself unsuccessful, or we have laziness towards our meditation, right? Or laziness towards our practice. I'll do it tomorrow, or no, I'm having a good life, yeah? And laziness develops. So an antidote to that would be a death meditation, yeah? It wakes you up, it goes, yeah? And it begins to be an antidote. So that would be a contradiction that is diametrically opposed. So you practice a death meditation, and that state of mind pushes aside, works over time to not let you be lazy. Yeah? The other one is this beautiful meditation called skeleton shamatha, this rotting meditation. Skeleton shamatha, I think is a translation of the thing where you visualize you're sitting, and this is to combat, it's the antidote to being attracted to sense objects. Yeah, thinking everyone's sexy and you want to touch their bits and so on. Yeah, or liking things. That's the third bad example I've used today. Bits. What was it?
Bits, poop, and sex.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a radical Buddhism course. Because nobody. Anyway, so. Check this out, right? This is in the Abhidharma Kosha, I think. You begin by meditating on Tishra till you're at this point of your third eye, yeah? And you visualize it as real as you can, as real as you experience it. And then you begin to rot it, to let it be what it will become, which is eventually it will disintegrate, it will get old and rot. And then you rot away your entire skin, your entire cranium, the eyes and the brain and everything, until you are completely rotted, and you begin to imagine the rotting and the disintegration of the seat you're in, the building you're in, every object, humans around it, all like a nuclear blast throughout your mandala, your universe, right? And you completely let things be what they will become. You let New York become what it will become. Naturally, the buildings will disintegrate over time or get knocked down, and you just let the natural disintegration process of the entire planet go all the way. And then you bring it back. And then you're watching it, and you have this detachment to what that object will become, and that object, because you see the guts and the disgustingness of it.
Dunshis of stuff you don't want to perceive if you're striving for Buddhahood.
Say that again?
Can it create, my initial reaction was that, oh, this is really good, I want to do this, I need
and
this.
Then you
and then I was like, oh shit,
this
I
is
don't
like
want to
watching
have,
a horror film.
Well no, it's like I don't want to have a Dunshi for that, because I don't want to experience it, I want to become enlightened in this.
And your answer to that would be, depends on your motivation.
I have
It could be a dangerous meditation.
Oh, look, this is the path. The path goes from here, where you operate on all these nominal understandings, you stop hurting life, you begin doing the 10 non-virtues, you take refuge, you take pratimoksha vows, you eventually move up and it gets harder. You do some bodhisattva activity, you take care of beings, you've stopped harming beings, you begin to care for them and do goodness, and then it gets harder. You begin entering a tantric path which is infinitely harder, and it does that kind of thing to your mind. You edge and edge and edge and edge and edge to your conception of what creates a good world and what creates a bad world, and at what point do you have power to influence that or not? It's a slippery, awesome path to bliss. So at some point you'd have to battle the fear of the challenge, where you don't see a mental image of rotting as a negative experience.
I also thought of, remember that story of the monk that wanted to save all hell beings, and as he kept doing more and more work, he was getting further and further away because he couldn't.
Because his motivation was, I really want to save all beings.
Yeah.
So the closer, the deeper he wanted to go to hell, to get the more beings, the further he experienced himself from, the more bliss and more heavenly he perceived angels pulling him up.
Yeah.
Good. Do you need a break? It's warm. Oh. I'd love the AC, please. So, we've got two kinds of contradictions. Something that's mutually exclusive, takpa, mitakpa, black, white, etc. And something that is diametrically opposed. They can be both. But the second one, so the first one is the real contradiction, okay? The other one works over time and is perceptually affecting the other. Does that make sense? So antidote, like those two meditations that work over time to push away. When you have that energy in your mind building, eventually you won't have laziness, and eventually you won't have this self-existent desire for sense objects. Three examples of mutually exclusive are takpa, unchanging, and don't be too clever. Unchanging and changing. Is that direct or indirect? Direct. Direct, right? So direct, great. Second one, go unchanging and working. I already did it. Indirect. How about this one? Working thing and a thing which doesn't work.
Direct.
Direct. Good. Excellent. For the second part, the contradiction which is diametrically opposed, we talked about antidotes, right? How about this one? What about shunyata and avidya? What's shunyata?
Empty.
Which is wisdom, right? Yeah. A mind that understands that things don't have an existence from their own side. Yeah? When your mind is there, you can't yell at it, right? And avidya is? Ignorance. Right? The one that you had nothing to do with, that is causing you to pain or hurt or be yelled at, or but I didn't do anything. Right? In relation to the two contradictions I gave you, I put this little experiment in here to see if you understood the two contradictions. One was mutually exclusive and the other one was diametrically opposed. Let's think about when your mind is understanding that the yelling could only have come from me yelling in the past. When my mind is completely understanding that she is dependent arising because she lacks that self-existence, at that time, could I ever perceive this Stephen, the avidya Stephen, the Stephen that comes from his own side? And so that's a nice example of the application of this contradiction story. But which of the two is it? Is it diametrically opposed, this one, or is it, what's the other one? Mutually exclusive.
Mutually exclusive.
I would
Are
say
you
diametrically
sure?
opposed.
What?
One that gets.
You guys aren't learning anything.
Are you talking about in the same instant? They're both.
You can't have.
Yeah.
Listen to the big philosophical question over here. Are you talking about the same instance? Yeah.
Well, it can appear in the same mind because you can have a direct perception of emptiness and then continue to have the karmas where you're seeing things that way, but you know it's not true.
Say that again. Say that again. Yeah.
You can have a direct perception of emptiness where you understand reality and where it's coming from in a direct way. Then, once the perception's over, you go back into normal reality and
Into normal reality?
Samsara. Well,
Ordinary existence.
Yeah, go on. I get what you mean. I was just being silly. Go on.
I know. Perceiving things in an ignorant way, but you understand that it's ignorant. So the karmas are still ripening, but you've already.
That still didn't answer my question.
But
You just got on.
but
My
he's
question
talking
was
about when in that moment.
Yeah,
When
at
you
the
are
moment.
having,
It's
when you're
mutually
in the moment of wisdom,
Yeah.
like when you are
whether
at
it's
correct view.
intellectual or direct, and in that
was
moment,
right.
I can't have that. And so we've agreed
Why?
that they are opposites, contradictions.
Can't be
We've
both.
agreed. But which of the two is it?
Can't be both at the same
Huh?
time. It can't be both at the same time. It has to be mutually exclusive. No, mutually exclusive.
It's a trick question. Yeah. If you're looking at it through the frame of mutually exclusive, right? It's just a trick question. You're looking at it through that perceptual framework. At that time, they are completely. When I'm there, that cannot be there. It's a complete contradiction. Yeah, and it's direct. Fair? But what about diametrically opposed? What's some of the qualities of diametrically opposed?
Negating the other.
Right, working over time. Yeah? So the more I do this, this is what you're going to take away to your life. The more I do this, she yelled at me, I better hug her. Yeah? No, it's hard. The more you do that, over time it works to not allow that one to come up. It's an antidote. Like death meditation is to laziness, and like skeleton shunyata is to sense object desire, right? And so practicing this one, having wisdom towards your world, the best that you can, will, in a diametrically opposed way of looking at it, will over time work down the force of self-existence coming at you, to the point where you might have a Dunchi perception of yourself flipping over to mostly being on this side of existence. And this is where Geshe Tashi was saying about the Bodhisattva having the Dunchi first and then having the experience versus the experiencing forcing the Dunchi, I think. Anyway, I thought you might like that idea. Did you like that idea? I hope you got it.
Is the opposite of everything that's not Hector. Then Hector is everything. I think that's algebra.
Wait, okay.
Say that again. I'm not sure I followed.
The opposite of everything that isn't.
Write it down,
And
parentheses
Hector be
around
everything.
it.
No,
I
you
don't
take
think it-
everything that isn't Hector.
Yeah.
That's here.
And then you do the opposite
Use
of
the
that.
opposite.
The only thing that's left is
Hector.
Hector. So Hector can't be everything, because there's all this stuff that is the opposite of Hector. There was something, I can't find it, but I wrote myself down that example, the one about the opposite of everything that is not Hector. Let's see if I find it. Huh?
I was thinking that was me every day.
That refers to a contradiction that is all-encompassing. Okay, I'm going to do this out of memory, because then what have we covered when we say pen and the opposite of everything that the pen is not? There is nothing else outside that, right?
Okay.
So that's a totality, I think, called contradiction. Yeah, but then there are contradictions that are like hot and cold. Yeah, hotness and coldness, which are still diametrically opposed, but there are things which are neither that nor that which do exist. So that's a different kind of contradiction if we care to go into it to analyze it, but we don't. Yeah. Let me finish and then hold it.
But then it's gonna be off topic.
That's my point. Yeah.
But no, it's on topic right now.
It's finished. Look, there's hungry ghosts.
But it's not a question.
Go on.
I remember a thing about opposites is that they have tons of stuff, they have everything in common except for one thing. So
Say
like,
that again?
The thing about opposites, they have like a set of qualities which are the same, but one quality is different. So like hot water versus cold water, or even hot and cold, they refer to temperature, sensation, and
Right. So yeah, the example I want to use is the sensation of heat and the sensation of coldness. They can't coexist, right? So my perception of that sensation, which is where this is coming from, we're not thinking that things are out there holding coldness or holding hotness. We're saying that there is a perceiver, which is the whole basis of it, that is missing in science. The perceiver who is having these experiences of living in the world must be included in the discussion about hotness and coldness, or the object and subject.
Yeah.
And so when we do this contradiction about heat and cold, or hotness and coldness in relation to mutually exclusive or diametrically opposed, there's a slight difference between saying hot and cold, and hotness and coldness as perceived by experiencing the heat. So if you enter into a room and the room is really freezing cold, and you put on the heat, right? That applies similar to shunyata and avidya. It has both qualities depending on which way you look at it. It's of no use for the discussion now. How's that? It's just interesting. Okay, cool. There were two last questions. We talked about correct reasons last time, but now I want to talk about correct reasons proving an absence or a notness of something, a not being of something. So consider this room full of you educated Buddhists. It would be improper for anyone in this room to swear the existence of hungry ghosts because, or if no one has had a valid perception of it. Does that is a correct reason, but what is it proving? What absence is it pointing out?
The absence of existing without our perception.
Right, the correctness of saying that we must act on pramana, right, on valid perception. Yeah. So the point of here is that to prove an absence of something through a correct reason, the point, which is what we sort of began this course at, is you've got to relate to the person you're debating to, right? If nobody here has had a valid perception of a hungry ghost, you can't stand there and say there are hungry ghosts, there are past lives, etc. It's improper. So it's the absence that the thing that it's negating, the absence of that, right? That there ain't a being that has had that perception. Cool. There are two types of correct reasons to prove an absence, and the first one is, this is simple, not big, involving something that a person has not had an experience in, so it's an incredible way of getting there, like the hungry ghost one, right? Involving a thing imperceivable to my opponent. But here's where I want to bring it all the way around to the beginning of this course. What was the main reason to study logic? Buddha quote. Anyone remember? The quote from the Buddha directly saying, you must study logic because, or it became the basis of studying logic.
Something to do with protecting the
No? That was one of the reasons.
You cannot.
Me or someone
like me, yeah.
can judge a person,
You cannot.
but if you do, you'll fail, right? If it's not someone like me, you'll fall. Check this out. The negation or a correct reason to prove an absence of something might be something like you're in line and the person in front of me is, I cannot say they are not a Buddha. I cannot say they are not a Buddha. Right? It's a negation, right? But what's the implication here? What's it pushing you towards?
They are. They might.
That they might be. And if you understand where things come from, can they be?
Yes.
Right. Okay. But we don't operate that way. We operate with this one all the time. The person in front of me is smelly and he's annoying and he's doing everything to make my day horrible from their own side. Like that. Those questions. From their own side. I'm not even looking at it. Right? So the method of using a correct reason to prove an absence will push you and your opponent in debating, will take you to truly understanding that statement from the Buddha, all the way back to the beginning of the course, saying we walk around judging people. And what happens when we react to the direct perception, the self-existence of things? We create more of the same, right? And in subtle notions, like just sitting in line going, this person's smelly, right? Where does smelly come from? If it's distasteful, where did it come from, right? So, and then if you use this method in your day-to-day practice, after you've practiced debating it, you will begin to open up a world of infinite possibilities. I'm not going to sing that song, yeah? A world of pure imagination. I am going to sing it. I didn't know it. And that can become a higher practice to really turn your whole world into a world of pure opportunity, including your internal world. When the seed comes up of me not being good enough, right? You can exhaust that seed by acting as if you are good enough, knowing where it comes from. I have planted seeds of this kind of thing, either towards myself or others. So I must be diligent to act against the impulse of believing it or following through with it, and begin to show people how awesome they are, or looking for the incredible nature, which you can remember from your memory dunchis of when you were awesome, yeah? And you begin to give that away to others, planting the seeds, and then wait for them to arise. And this is the whole basis for a tantric practice as well. The other one is simple, involving a thing which is perceivable, or did I screw it up? Perceivable to your opponent. For example, the absence of a car. Consider the pen. It doesn't have a car on top of it because there are no Chevys there. Right? You all know what a Chevy is. You all know what a car is. You all know it, so it's perceivable to you. So that would be proving an absence by something you already can figure out. The other one, the first one, is proving an absence through something that is hard for us to reach. And people can use either of these in debate. Yeah? And that's the second to last thing in this course. I did it before at 9:30, but then I got 5 minutes of talking afterwards. So let's do an awesome dedication of the hard work, pushing our minds to just some concepts. This is one more of those many concepts, right? We talked about subject, object. We talked about correct reason, incorrect reason. And all of it was to try and slow down the way our minds create a reality with these three assumptions, right? Consider my life, or consider the person in front of me. They are horrible. So the subject, the assertion, they are horrible because they stink, yeah? Or because they smell, or because they're slow, or whatever. Our minds are doing that like that. Consider this. It's like that because of that. Consider this. It's like that because of this. And debate just breaks that up and makes you slow it down, check it with each other. And all these subjects we're talking about are ways of questioning the relationship between those assertions. You can't say that the person in front of you is horrible because they're fat, because all fat people must be horrible. And I know you might know some nice fat people. So that the mind is wrong. there's your mistake, and you act on that mistake, and you create more of those. So breaking it down and getting to the nitty-gritty of it helps you dispel the force to continue in samsara that way. Cause and effect, cause and effects, cause and effect. And aids you in trying to practice the way things truly exist, which is they don't have a nature of their own, and everything is dependent on your pastime. The seeds ripening from you to them. Yeah? So with that, dedicated to every person, like a robot, walking this planet for millennia, thinking they're going to get happy by getting things or pushing things away. That ain't going to be the way. There's a different way, and that way is understanding that you create your world truly. So let's dedicate it and offer it.
Sashi
Bukir Jishin Metotram Viravling Shin Indelimpadi Sangye Shindu Miteluargi Drokun Nanda Shinla Chipasho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamniyatayami
Kewa
Didokum Sunam Yeshe Soksokshin Sunam Yeshe Lejunwe Dampa Kunito Parsho.
Whatever you've got may grow and expand in your mind and then into actions. I want to do a couple of things here. I want to say thank you to everyone that helped make the Three Jewels and continues to make the Three Jewels. Yeah? Who likes the new space? Yeah? Cool. Okay. It's growing and developing. Get involved. The point of this is the Three Jewels isn't the Three Jewels without us here. It's just a building. But it's supercharged with years of practice of people hurting their brains trying to figure out. And when we're in a good space, we help each other. When we're in a bad space, we come here and ask for help. Yeah, off each other. There's no like self-existence here either. But we've charged up this place and it continues to be charged up. Stephen, thank you for organizing it. Yeah? Every time I'm away, I get phone calls, so I talk to him and he's like busy doing stuff. And it's hard. It's not easy. Yeah, and he doesn't do it alone. All of the volunteers that give up their time freely to service at the front desk, the same. They don't get a cent, and they're just doing it. They're trying their best to make it look professional and feel good and still be true and homey and honest. So if you get a chance to thank them, please thank them. Yeah, please be kind to them. Yeah, and also the place doesn't run cheap. We've just had our rent completely doubled from what we started this year, and we're struggling but doing okay to maintain it without eating away at the generous donation that one of our sponsors gave us to move. When we move, we have a bunch of money to renovate. We don't want to eat into that. So if you can help become $1 a day person or volunteer or connect to people that want to donate to the Three Jewels, it really makes a tangible difference. So people can walk in off the street if they need something. They don't have to worry, the place is here. And it's been here for 20 years, thanks to people like Mike and Nancy and Geshe Michael and all of you guys who have been here all this time. So please consider, if you can, help it. $1 a day or donate or help with your time and energy, like painting and renovating. Please, yeah, it's really important, especially now. Secondly, we are an awesome community of really weird humans. Yeah? No, seriously, you're a little odd, especially you. And I love it. It's really nice to be odd in a robotic world. Yeah? I don't know if many of you who have practiced for a while, you might get normal about your practice. Don't. If you're like me, you are just lost in a sea of not understanding where the hell things come from. And all of a sudden, here comes this philosophy that teaches you a little bit about where things come from. You might not believe it, but did you really believe the previous one, the previous story? No, because you were always looking for a better thing and a new thing and a different thing. Don't allow yourself to continue on the habit. If you really understand the philosophical basis, which is not hard, it just sounds hard because we're programmed to do the opposite. If you really understand that that being could never exist that way, and that is true for everything, how you feel about yourself, the way you eat, the way you find food, where you get abundance, where you don't. If you really understand there ain't nothing in your world that could ever exist like that, if that's a gotcha, that's impossible. That your entire existence is this way, caused by what you've done before, then to find a philosophy that might make sense in a world that is addicted to pain is also caused by you. And you can make that continue. Yeah? How? Helping others. One story that the 3-year retreatants were telling me in Europe was that it's lonely in 3-year retreat. You are by yourself and your mind. And you can imagine beings and you can remember the memory of being kind to others and planting seeds with others. But it's like a thirst that you develop. And when the doors open and you see other beings, they are your only vehicle for you to plant good seeds. You can only do it in relation to others. And when they are in 3D in front of you, you are completely dependent on them for your enlightenment in this system. So all of a sudden, every being becomes this precious, wish-fulfilling jewel. Really. Which is what Bodhisattvas talk about. So I'm inviting you to come and hang out with these beings at a picnic this
Saturday.
At?
Either meet here at 11 or meet there around 12.
Got it?
Where? We're gonna go, I was looking up on a map today, the south end of the Great Lawn, which is by the Dela Cortez Theater, the Shakespeare in the Park Theater. It's Turtle Pond is the name of the little pond there. It's like there's a little piece of lawn. So I figured we'd have like water to look at and the Belvedere Castle to look at without being like in the Great Lawn. Hopefully we'll get a spot. If you want to go, get my number. If you're not going to meet here at 11, get my number and then you can just call me.
Or if you have my number, I'll be with him too.
Yeah.
Yeah? But if you got time, come hang out. Yeah?
How late will it go?
I think 12 to 4.
Yeah. We're going to all make food and take some food with us and some drink and just hang out with blankets and just relax, which is the last thing I want to say. Remember somewhere in the class I told you, if you've studied ACI 4 and you can prove the existence of previous lives, past and future lives, right? Is that ACI 4? Yeah. If you understood at some level that your consciousness, the stream of being of your mind, has been here from time without beginning, then you have an unlimited, infinite supply of crappy seeds ready to burst open and really good seeds, all the ones for enlightenment too, ready to burst open. And you can harvest and hatch the good ones. If you remember Geshe teaching on Mama Chicken on the egg, yeah? And the main component there to activate those seeds are coffee meditation. Being happy about the good things you have done. Remembering them. And if you can't remember them from 6 lifetimes ago, imagine what kind of seed you must have planted to have teachings. Live in New York City, have a healthy body, find people that share a relationship with you about intellect. Whatever the hell is good about your life, it didn't come from no one. It could only have come from you doing it to others. Think about that. You've taught people philosophies that free them in this system. And if you can't remember, okay, imagine how you did and fertilize those seeds and they will come up, especially if you dedicate it to others. So rejoice tonight before going to bed, because this is what happens as you fall asleep. There's a flowering opening of your heart that happens and you're hyper vulnerable to whatever you went to bed with. So don't sit there like me with a phone looking at stupid Facebook. Yeah? Unless it's all about Bernie Sanders and then it's okay. political interlude, and alienated half the no. So rejoice, really, rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. And not just when you go to bed. Do it every minute of the day you can. When a goodness comes to you, feel good about it. Where did it come from? No. Yes. Dedicate it. Feel good about it. And that will just activate those seeds. And then you'll see your life change. This is the path. It's your path. Yeah.
Wait,
Thank you.
one more thing. ACI 1 starts next Tuesday.
Oh yeah. ACI 1 starts on Tuesday with an awesome chick teacher, much nicer looking than me. Her name is Ji Chang. Who is she? Ji. She is
Student of John Stowell.
Yeah.
She used to go to John's classes every week.
And she's been around the Three Jewels for about 5 years now. Incredible. Like, she's a brand manager, a graphic designer, a marketing expert, a super professional, balances home life, does retreat on a regular basis, is really well qualified. So the very beginning of this course, either come for a review, invite and bring people that you know should come, and she's going to be awesome on Tuesdays at 7.
6:30. 6:30 to
6:30.
8:30.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. We did it.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, here.